Sawasdee ka, welcome back to Thai League Central Podcast. You're with me, Ta Lau. We're here to preview a very special weekend. Yes, it's the match day 5 unplayed or a rescheduled match, whichever word best describes it, you go with that one. Anyways, my guest for today, Paul Murphy. Paul, glad that you're doing well. How excited are you about these two games coming up on Saturday?
Yeah, these are two very interesting fixtures for different reasons. You've got the title, the league leaders, would-be challengers, and then the two teams that have kind of fallen off the horse since the restart. So it's a very interesting pair of fixtures.
Yeah, and let's jump right into it. So Saturday at 6 p.m., this one will be kicking off at the Mitr Stadium. 5th place Ratchaburi Mitr Phol hosting True Bangkok United. These two sides, man, it's been the story of the post-COVID era, I should say, because before COVID, these were the two teams that went perfect. You know, they won all 4 games in a row. This was a very hype matchup going to match day 5. The return after COVID, these sides were supposed to kick things off. 5:45 p.m. kickoff way back. We were previewing it for you. And now it's been moved a few weeks later. And it seems like everything has changed, right, Paul? Rajaburi don't look as great going forward. While True Bangkok United, they've lost 2 in a row now. How do you see this game playing out? Two sides not really in good form at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a nervous game because neither of these teams can really afford to drop more points. I mean, Bangkok United, thought to be title contenders again, but they just look like they've looked flat at the moment. They're not scoring. They've not scored a goal in the last 2 games, and that's not at all Bangkok United. Like, they are renowned for their attack. I know they've been missing their main frontman Brenner. But, it's hard to put your finger on what's not working for them at the moment. But they're not looking particularly threatening in attack. The defence, obviously, and they're not considered a huge amount of goals. But I just think they're looking low on confidence. And I think maybe just breaking that momentum, coming back, and that being a little bit outplayed, not comprehensively, but, BG Patum beating them at home, that set them up for the following week in a negative way. And I think that defeat at Chonburi was really poor. It's the kind of game you've got to get something out of to win titles. Yeah. To go there and lose, that's a huge dent to the confidence. And it's going to be interesting to see how they respond.
Yeah, and this game being at Ratchaburi's last few fixtures, they've not had a win yet since the return after COVID. They're back at home again. Last week it was 3 penalties. It took 3 different penalties to finally get a point against a struggling Prachuap. So they don't look that great since the return. Now, going forward for Ratchaburi, they don't have Jagapat anymore. Jit Panya, their center midfielder, is also out. So probably Karabue will be there. Longjo on one side as well. On the other side, they might go with another option. But what do you think Ratchaburi have to do in order to secure at least a point or maybe go for all 3 against True Bangkok, who will be looking to bounce back from 2 defeats in a row? What do you think Ratchaburi have to do? Is it changing up the forwards? Is it being more cautious at the back? What do you think is wrong with them so far?
I think they have to be a bit more decisive about who starts up front. I mean, they've had a lot of... I know Bolly had fitness issues. He didn't start the first game, and Apiwak came in, and he didn't really show up much in the 2 games he started. They're not really settled in attack, and just like Bangkok United, you expect them to be a more of a free-scoring side. I mean, the two of the goals they've scored since they came back, one was a penalty, one was an own goal in added time. So they're not really creating enough. And to beat Bangkok United, I think they've got to maybe go against their usual tactical approach and just be a bit more careful, a bit more prudent, and and everyone knows Bangkok United can be vulnerable on the break when they're attacking you. And I think they can use people like Longio on breakaways, and if Bolly gets a chance, he's a solid finisher.
Yeah.
So I think they have to think carefully about how they approach this game. Bangkok United don't tend to mix things up that much. You know what to expect. Rajaburi tend to have a similar approach, but I think both sides might be a little bit more cautious this game because of what's at stake. But I expect Rajaburi to be a bit more defensive, a bit more careful, and try to exploit the gaps that often appear in the Bangkok United defence. But Rajaburi not particularly strong in defence either. We saw that last week.
Exactly.
And of course, Bangkok United have the players to exploit that. But again, they've not been scoring, so it's going to be interesting. We could end up with a 3-3 or a 4-4, just because both of these teams have been storing up the goals that they are capable of scoring.
Yeah. Before I ask you for your score predictions, though, True Bangkok. A stat that I like to throw out for you before you make that prediction. True Bangkok, the last time they lost to Ratchaburi was 2015. That's a very, very long time. So in terms of head-to-head, everything points towards True Bangkok. Now, what's your, prediction for the outcome of this game?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Bangkok United, maybe to edge it 2-1. That statistic actually would make me think more Rajaburi. It might be Matt Rajaburi's turn to get a result, a victory against Bangkok United. But if I'm going to base it purely on what I think is a slightly stronger side, I think Bangkok United have a better team at the moment. As you've mentioned, Rajaburi have got a couple of injuries to important players that stifles their creativity. And I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think Bangkok United, I don't know if Brenner's going to be fit, but if he is, I was told about it for a couple of weeks ago, so he might be ready for the game. And if he is, it changes things a little bit if he's fit. It would give Bangkok United that focal point in attack. So I'm going to go 2-1 Bangkok United.
2-1 Bangkok United. Paul, I'd like to play devil's advocate here. I'm going to go with a 2-1 home win for Ratchaburi. I think they're finally back at home again. They got to turn things around. While for True Bangkok, 3 defeats for them. That's what I'm predicting. Sorry, Mano, but hey, we're here to just make a prediction, so no hard feelings there. Anyways, moving on to an hour later. This one is a 7 p.m. kickoff. The red hot BGPU, the only undefeated team left in this year's competition, will host Buriram United. Yes, Buriram also been great since they've returned. I mean, in terms of getting wins, great, but score lines, 2 very close calls there. Paul, this one at BG, you and I are planning to head to this one 7 p.m. on Saturday. How do you see this one playing out?
Again, it's going to be fascinating to see how the home side approach this. We've seen, obviously, the last few weeks, BG really impressive, beating Port and Bangkok United, 2 title rivals, away from home without conceding a goal. And then really almost tripping up against Rayong, the bottom side last week, needing 2 penalties to win that one. So I think it's cracked a little bit the building confidence of the team, even though they got the 3 points, which you've got to grind out these wins, of course. Yeah. And the important thing was getting the 3 points. But I think teams would look at BG. Teams were looking at BG before and thinking they look like a solid unit and they'll be tough to beat. But I think after last week, it might just give a few opponents a bit more confidence when they play them and say, well, they can be stopped. Yeah. Again, we're not seeing many goals from BG, from open play anyway. Obviously 2 penalties, against Bangkok United. I think it was a set piece and a fluke. So really, the last 5 goals, just one sort of open play effort from Chenrop against Port. So there's not a huge goal threat, and we've talked about this a lot. The fact that they don't really have a 20 goal a season striker at BG. So Buriram, obviously, not scoring but not conceding the last couple of games. They obviously got a bit lucky against the Banbury, but last week was a classic Buriram away performance. They bided their time. They were patient. They had a few chances. I mean, a few chances on both sides, but they had a bit of needle in them, like some of the Buriram sides of old. Gidi Kanuk obviously is a guy that can wind people up in midfield, and Shepovic was upsetting the Chiang Rai players. So I mean, Shepovic was looking impressive last week, I thought, and I think he's going to be a threat to BG this weekend. My feeling is Buriram are building, right, and last week was a big step in the right direction. They can't afford to lose because, again, it would see them fall significantly behind BG.
Yeah,
and I think with BG's lack of goal threat, Buriram can keep them out. I think they can hit them on the break. I don't think Buriram will be going for it from the attack. I think it'll be a tactical battle. And I just get the feeling that Buriram are stepping up gradually, and they'll see this one as a must win probably. And I think Bandovic, of the two coaches, Bandovic is maybe the stronger, and he might just have the plan that stifles BG. So I'm definitely leaning towards a Buriram win here.
Yeah, before the predictions come out, I want to focus a little bit on each team's storyline heading into this game. So for the home side, BG Patum, very impressive wins, like you mentioned, against fellow title contenders. But a game where they should dominate, everybody had them being 2-3 goal favorites against a struggling Rayong. They seem to lack the cutting edge in that one, and it was Victor Cardozo's double penalties that sealed them all 3 points. So I want to ask you, maybe is this game going to suit more towards BG because they're playing an opponent that's similar to them, where they can use that defensive prowess and attack on the break? Or do you think that Buriram's a different side than Port and True Bangkok, that they're going to face another tough competition like the ones that they've not, played against at all?
Yeah, I expect Buriram to be stronger at the back than Port and Bangkok United. And I think that's why it's going to be very tough for them to get the better of them. It could end up being a 0-0. You could get a set piece, and one of Victor Cardoso comes up with a goal. That's probably possibly their best chance of scoring is on a set piece, because they've always got that threat. But I think, as you say, there's two strong-looking defences at the moment. Yeah. And if I had to go for a stronger attack, I'd go with Buriram at the moment. I think that's where they might edge it. Super Choke, not quite hitting his top form yet. We can look for him to get better with more game time. Will they try Super Nut up front again? I think he'd be a different challenge to Super Chai. But I think Super Nut might get the nod on that, because Super Chai, as we know, has been struggling for form for 18 months. Yeah. So it might be too big a game to start him.
Now, to Buriram's side, all new foreign players getting plenty of game time in the first two games. How impressive have they been for you? And so far in the return, I guess, if you think about it, Buriram, if they win the two games in hand, they're up to be, title contenders again. So are we just overrating the fact that it was the worst start in club history? I mean, 1 win, 1 draw, 2 defeats. But then if everyone around them struggling, maybe this is a side that can easily come back and win the league again, right?
Well, I think that the start they had was a continuation of last season. And I think that's what maybe discouraged a lot of fans. And the new foreign signings, again, looked unimpressive, even though it was just a few games. And of course, subsequently, they got rid of them all and replaced them. And I think the ones they've replaced with, I think, they've come at, most of them come at an age where they've got something to prove. And I think that makes a difference. They haven't gone for the guys in their early 30s. They've gone for guys in their mid to late 20s that have got, they can see this as an opportunity to really build a career in the region. And I think so far, I've certainly been impressed by Giri Kanuk in midfield. I think he will improve. Renato in defence, it's a bit early to say how strong he is, but he'll have got a lot of confidence from getting the winner last week. And Shepovic, as I said earlier, he started to look. His movement was good last week. He scored. Well, he almost scored with a nice header. Just the way he got in front of his defender, that those instincts are sharpening up. And I got a feeling he's going to score one on Saturday.
All right, so let's go with the score predictions now, Paul. Is it going to go BG? Is it going to go Buriram? Or do you think it's going to finish all square?
I think Buriram are going to repeat the same scoreline as they have the last 2 weeks and get a 1-0 win.
All right. I'm actually sitting on the fence in this one. I think this one's got 0-0 written all over it. I doubt, I think the 2 goals that Buriram scored so far, the first one, of course, was Giri Kanyuk's effort. And the second one was a very, very late header. And I think if Chiang Rai were more, I guess, aware in that defensive setup on that corner kick, they could have easily earned a point. And to be honest, Chiang Rai could have got all 3 because of the chances they had earlier on in that game. So I thought Buriram were quite lucky there to get all 3 points. Chiang Rai deserved more. So yeah, I think it's going to be a 0-0. BG's defense, I don't see Supachok or Supanat or even Sepkovic running through those 3 in the back. I think Irfan, Cardozo, and Tunez playing against his former club, they're going to be up for it. They love the big games. And yeah, I don't see Buriram getting past. At the same time, on the other end, I agree with you. BG don't offer a lot going forward. And I think it's going to be a midfield battle between this one. And it's going to go back and forth. Half chances here and there, but it's going to be 0-0. Anyways, Paul, thank you so much for joining me for the preview of this week's games. Just 2 coming at you, but 2 big games to look out for. So make sure that you tune in for that. Anyways, till next time, peace.